How does a massive rocket actually move in the complete vacuum of space, where there is absolutely nothing to push against? Think about it for a second. If you're swimming, you push against the water. If you're walking, your feet push against the ground. But out in the deep emptiness of outer space, there's no air, no water, and no ground. So, how does a spacecraft weighing millions of pounds manage to accelerate? This brings us to a really common student confusion. Most people intuitively picture the blazing fire coming out of a rocket engine and just assume those flames are pushing off the ground or the atmosphere to lift the rocket up. But that is completely false. Rockets do not push against the earth or the air. In fact, rocket engines work even better in a pure vacuum because gases are actually easier to expel when there's no atmospheric pressure pushing back against them. So by the end of this explainer, you're going to master exactly how this works. You'll understand the core physical concept of propulsion, you'll learn the exact mathematical formula that dictates rocket acceleration, and you'll see how to apply these concepts to real historical examples, like the massive Saturn V rocket and the Space Shuttle. Section 1, Newton's third law, the principle of propulsion. Okay, let's dive into this. To understand how we move in space, we have to travel all the way back to the 17th century and look at a universal rule of physics. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You've actually seen this exact same foundational physics at work right here on Earth. If you blow up a balloon and let it go without tying it, what happens? The air rushes out in one direction, and the balloon shoots across the room in the exact opposite direction. Or think about a squid swimming in the ocean. A squid propels itself by forcefully squirting a jet of water backward, which pushes its body forward. Or even consider the recoil of a gun. The gun exerts a force to push the bullet forward, and it experiences an equal and opposite force kicking it backward. Rocket propulsion is exactly the same principle. Matter, in the form of superheated gas, is forcefully ejected from the rocket system in one direction, producing an equal and opposite reaction that accelerates the rocket in the other direction. Now, you might be wondering, wait a minute, doesn't the exhaust just push on the launch pad? This is a great time for a quick check on what we've learned. And the answer is absolutely not. The thrust comes purely from expelling the mass of the gas forcefully out of the back of the engine. The engine pushes the gas out, and the gas pushes the engine forward. The launch pad just happens to be in the way of the exhaust. The reaction force is strictly between the rocket and its own expelled fuel. Section 2. The math of thrust, building the acceleration formula. Now that we understand the basic idea, let's move to the formula and see how this builds mathematically. How do we calculate exactly how fast that rocket is going to speed up? Well, a rocket's acceleration depends on three major factors. First, we have the exhaust velocity, how fast the gases are shooting out the back of the rocket. The faster the gas exits, the greater the acceleration. Second, we have the rate at which the fuel burns and is ejected. Pushing a little gas out fast is good, but pushing a lot of gas out fast is even better. And third, we have the total mass of the rocket itself. If you're trying to push a heavier object, it's just going to accelerate more slowly. Putting those three concepts together gives us the standard formula for the acceleration of a rocket. A is our acceleration. On the right side, VE is the exhaust velocity. We divide that by m, which is the mass of the rocket. We then multiply that by delta m over delta t, which represents the rate at which the mass of the fuel is being burned and ejected over time. Finally, if the rocket is taking off from Earth, we have to subtract g, which is the downward pull of gravity. Wait, this is an absolutely crucial moment. Look closely at the delta m over delta t multiplied by v sub e. That specific part of the equation has its own name, thrust. Measured in newtons, thrust is the literal upward force generated by the engine. The faster a rocket burns its fuel and the faster it ejects that exhaust, the greater its thrust. That thrust is exactly what fights against the downward pull of gravity to lift this massive machine into the sky.
Section 3. Real-world application, the Saturn V moon launch.
Let's make this easier with a real-world example. Let's apply our formula to the legendary Saturn V rocket. It's one thing to look at letters in an equation, but what is truly staggering here is the sheer scale of the numbers. At liftoff, the Saturn V had a massive initial mass of 2.8 million kilograms. To get that moving, its engines had a fuel burn rate of 14,000 kilograms per second. Seriously, imagine burning 14 metric tons of fuel every single second. And that fuel was being blasted out the bottom at an exhaust velocity of 2,400 meters per second. If we plug those massive numbers into our formula, dividing the exhaust velocity by the mass, multiplying by that massive burn rate, and subtracting Earth's gravity, we get an initial acceleration of 2.20 meters per second squared. Now, you might think, well, that actually seems kind of small. And at the very second of liftoff, it is. But remember the formula. The rocket is burning 14,000 kilograms of fuel every single second. Because it's rapidly losing mass, the m in the denominator of our equation is constantly shrinking. As the mass decreases, the acceleration increases continuously, pressing the astronauts harder and harder into their seats as they climb into orbit. This perfectly sets up another question for you. If we're trying to reduce mass to increase acceleration, why do rockets drop entire pieces of themselves as they fly upward? Why not just build one solid ship from the start? And this brilliantly illustrates the brutal reality of escaping Earth's gravity. To reach escape velocity with conventional fuel, an astronomical percentage of your starting weight has to be the fuel itself. To escape Earth using a single-stage rocket starting from rest, 98.9% of the rocket must be fuel. That leaves a tiny 1.1% for the engines, the fuel tanks, the computers, and the actual payload or astronauts. It is incredibly difficult to build a functional spacecraft where the fuel weighs almost 100 times more than the structure holding it. So aerospace engineers solve this with multi-stage rockets. They literally stack rockets on top of rockets. Once the giant bottom stage burns all its fuel, it becomes dead weight. The rocket drops it, dramatically reducing the mass of the vehicle, and the next stage fires up to continue the push. Dropping multi-million-dollar rocket stages into the ocean is, obviously expensive, which led to a massive shift in space exploration history. The space shuttle. The space shuttle was designed as an economical alternative featuring reusable parts. It used 2 solid fuel boosters on either side that would parachute back to Earth to be refueled, while the orbiter itself acted like a spaceplane that could literally glide back down to a runway. However, because it was a highly complex vehicle requiring human operation and intense maintenance, like checking thousands of pioneering ceramic heat tiles between every single flight, it ironically ended up being just as costly as using expendable unmanned rockets. Section 4, wrapping up key takeaways on propulsion. Before we finish up, let's quickly summarize the key points we've covered today. So the absolute crucial takeaway is that a rocket doesn't need air or a launch pad to push against. It operates purely on Newton's third law of motion. By expelling mass backward, it forces itself forward. The amount of acceleration you get depends directly on how fast your exhaust velocity is, how rapidly you can burn the fuel, and how light you can make the rocket. And because fuel is so incredibly heavy, we use staging to discard dead weight and reach the blistering speeds required to slip the surly bonds of Earth. I want to leave you with a fascinating thought experiment directly from our physics source material today. Imagine an astronaut floating perfectly still in deep space, unfortunately cut free from her spaceship. She is completely out of reach of any solid object to push off of. However, she happens to be holding a few heavy supply packages. Using Newton's third law, how could she use those packages to save her own life? And mathematically speaking, would she get back to the ship faster by throwing all the packages at once, or throwing them one at a time? Think about the mass of the packages, the force she can exert, and the physics we just learned today. Keep that in mind, and I'll see you in our next explain.